Donald Trump isn't one to let bygones be bygones, and early this morning, well, more accurately, the middle of the night, the president-elect put out this ominous message on Truth Social. Quote, Liz Cheney could be in a lot of trouble. He was referring to claims in a new House Republican report calling for Cheney to be prosecuted for her work on the January 6th Select Committee. The report accuses her of witness tampering. CNN's Kristen Holmes joins me now. Kristen, the time of day is certainly noteworthy. The content is more so.
Yeah, it's certainly starting to feel a lot like the first time Donald Trump was in the White House when he would fire off tweets in the middle of the night. We know he doesn't like to sleep, but now he is also posting things that hold a lot more weight because he is the president-elect. Now, I do want to note one thing. These comments come after Donald Trump sat down for an interview with NBC and essentially said that all the members of the House Select Committee that investigated January 6th should go to jail. And he has had a particular fixation on Liz Cheney. He brought it up in that interview, and he brought her up multiple times on the campaign trail. She is someone who has really gotten under his skin. Now, the reason why this holds so much more weight now is given the fact that, one, he is going to be president, but two, who he has installed to what he hopes is be the head of the FBI, because part of this is essentially the committee saying that Liz Cheney should be prosecuted by the FBI, which in Trump's world, if all goes according to plans, would be run by Kash Patel, a Trump loyalist who we believe, based on everything we have seen from Patel over the last several years, would do whatever it was that Trump wanted, including potentially prosecute Liz Cheney. So I do want to talk a little bit about what's in that report. So here are some of the key findings from that subcommittee report that was sent out by the House Republicans. It says Liz Cheney colluded with, quote, star witness Cassidy Hutchinson. Again, these are the key findings. Liz Cheney should be investigated for potential criminal witness tampering. Liz Cheney used the January 6th Select Committee as a tool to attack President Trump. Now, what's really interesting to me about this, Dana, is that these are things that I have heard from Trump allies behind the scenes without any sort of research or report to back it up, that they believed had happened in terms of what happened with the January 6th Select Committee. Clearly now you have Trump allies putting out this report, which really confirms everything that Donald Trump wanted to have confirmed around the January 6th Select Committee, and particularly around Liz Cheney. And just one quick thing to note, this is the latest in a series of what we have seen from President-elect Donald Trump, where he wants to go after his perceived enemies, Liz Cheney among them, but also the media, as we saw in the last several days.
Yeah, we sure have. Kristen, thank you so much for that reporting. I'm joined here at the table by a group of very talented reporters, CNN's Isaac Dovere, Vivian Salama of The Wall Street Journal, and CNN's Lauren Fox. I want to just play a little bit of what Barry Lattermilk, the congressman from Georgia who put out this report, said on Newsmax late yesterday.
We started finding this back channel communication between Cassidy Hutchinson and Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney also admits that she shouldn't be having these communications because it's an ethical violation, but she continues to do it anyhow. And so that's why I think the FBI needs to look into this.
So just to kind of remind people, Kristen just read this, but our memories might be a bit foggy, even though we were very deeply rooted in this. During the January 6th hearing, the sort of star witness was Cassidy Hutchinson, who worked for Donald Trump in the White House. And what the allegation in this report is that when Cassidy Hutchinson decided to testify against Trump, previously she had her legal team was paid for by Donald Trump and by his allies. And the allegation in this report is that Liz Cheney, in bringing her over, also helped her get new legal counsel, which maybe persuaded her, or that's my word, but that's the gist of it, to testify against Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting is the swift response that you saw from Cheney as well as Benny Thompson, who chaired this committee. And what you have them basically saying is that this is a distraction from the work that the January 6th committee did. I mean, we all remember Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony. We all remember a lot of blockbuster testimony over the course of several months that they were televising these hearings. And I think that what the argument you're hearing from Cheney and others on the Democratic side are that This is just an effort to satisfy Donald Trump, to make sure that he feels like his allies on Capitol Hill are lined up and prepared to go after his enemies. And I do want to point out that Kash Patel, who has been picked by Donald Trump to lead the FBI, is on Capitol Hill today meeting with Republicans. You can expect that this is going to be something that Republicans are going to be pushing him on. I know from his meeting with Senator John Cornyn, because Cornyn told us after the meeting, when I pressed Cornyn on, are you confident that Kash Patel is going to be able to tell Donald Trump no? Cornyn essentially said, that's a good question. Because I think there's still a huge question mark for a lot of members. And this report today, and as well as Donald Trump's previous comments, I think are the reason why Republicans are concerned about this.
And you mentioned Liz Cheney's response. I want to read it because it's important to underline, because there's a lot of allegations here, what she says. She said, quote, January 6th showed Donald Trump for who he really is, a cruel and vindictive man. Now Chairman Loudermilk's, quote, interim report intentionally disregards the truth and instead fabricates lies and defamatory allegations in an attempt to cover up what Donald Trump did.
Liz Cheney has been questioning the integrity of a lot of her Republican colleagues since January 6th, that they were not able to come out immediately and call out the actions not only of then President Trump, but also those around him, to say that they were somehow inciting these events, that they were meddling with the election results. And this is something that she's stuck with. Obviously, you know, she ended up endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris during the election and really went full blown, against Donald Trump, did not hide that. But this is something that she and the very few Republicans who joined the select committee, have been saying all along. And of course, it was detrimental to their careers ultimately to come out and speak out against him regarding January 6th. But she has stuck to it since then and has really called out a lot of her Republican colleagues as well.
I think that when you see that Donald Trump is tweeting about this or posting on Truth Social at 3:11 a.m., when you're posting on social media at 3 o'clock in the morning, it means that either it's something that you're like some crazy idea that got into your head or something that's really obsessing you, right? This is very much on his mind. And Liz Cheney has been very much on his mind for a long time. And we are at a point now where we have to think, was Donald Trump lying about every time that he said during the campaign that he would go after her and other people who were involved in this? Or was he telling the truth? And based on people like Kash Patel being installed at the FBI, and by the way, over the existing FBI director who Donald Trump himself had appointed, there is a lot of reason to believe that he was telling the truth about what he wanted to do here.
Even before Donald Trump responded, Chris Murphy, the Democratic senator from Connecticut, tweeted the following. It's happening in front of our eyes. Is there a chance this is all show and bluster? Maybe, but the developments of just the last few days, ABC's bogus settlement, the referral of Cheney for prosecution, Trump's suit against the Register, all point to this being very, very real.
When I saw that series of tweets this morning,
9 tweets by Senator Murphy.
It struck me because I had done a story just about 10 days ago where a lot of Democrats were basically arguing that they needed to be very careful about when they cried wolf when it came to Donald Trump, that they felt like the last several years they have been arguing that danger was on the precipice of the door every single time, and that it had sort of lost its meaning for the American people. And so, one of the people that I talked to for that story was Chris Murphy, and I do think it's really interesting that they think this is a very serious moment, and clearly he thinks this is a very serious moment.
And Trump hasn't offered any ambiguity. I mean, just telling NBC's Kristen Welker recently in the last week that anyone who voted against him or joined the select committee should go to jail. And that's as president-elect. So obviously, a lot of people taking his comments very seriously.
But before we go to break, I just want to get to one bit of your reporting, which I thought was fascinating in the Journal, how Tucker Carlson killed Mike Pompeo's hopes of joining the Trump administration. Former Fox News host and Donald Trump Jr. led a campaign to prevent Pompeo from getting an administration job.
Yeah, and it's part of a broader theme, Dana. So, Mike Pompeo was seen as a front runner for the Secretary of Defense job literally up until almost the day before the election. But Tucker Carlson, the former Fox News host, and his son, Don Jr., really pushed him. They said that he's a neocon, and they believe that the neocons, you know, these old school conservatives, were essentially trying to manipulate him, not serve faithfully. They pointed out examples like John Kelly and Jim Mattis from the last administration, John Bolton, all of them who have come out and said he wasn't fit to run for president again. And so they linked Mike Pompeo to that. And it's really just ultimately the tensions. It highlights the tensions between the MAGA branch of the Republican Party and a lot of these more traditional Republicans being pushed out the door.